Welcome and ting and ting and ting. And we going back to Ireland, people. You know what? I see a comparison between Ireland and the Balkans and Scotland and the Caribbean and Africa and ting. You understand? I see that. Today we're going to watch the genetic history of Ireland, Irish origins, y'all. Let's go ahead and YouTube a sim. Actually, I'm going to do this video in two parts because it's kind of long. So I'm going to do it in two parts. Hope you guys enjoy this. Let's go over and let's find out the genetic history of Ireland.
The genetics of Ireland. The Irish DNA Atlas is a powerful genetic tool that researchers led by the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, RCSI, and the Genealogical Society of Ireland, GSI, have built to untangle the origins of the peoples of modern Ireland. Their collaborative study, published in Nature in 2017 as The Irish DNA Atlas, revealing fine-scale population structure and history within Ireland, established the most comprehensive record we possess about who populated Ireland, when they arrived, and how they interacted with the peoples already there.
All right.
A few months later, in the journal PLOS Genetics, a group of researchers, primarily from Trinity College Dublin, published another study, Insular Celtic Population Structure and Genomic Footprints of Migration, detailing an even wider scope of Irish history and identity throughout the ages. As they summarize in the open access article, a recent genetic study of the UK expanded our understanding of population history of the islands, using newly developed, powerful techniques that harness the rich information embedded in chunks of genetic code called haplotypes. These methods revealed subtle regional diversity across the UK and, using genetic data alone, timed key migration events into southeast England and Orkney. We have extended these methods to Ireland, identifying regional differences in genetics across the island that adhere to geography at a resolution not previously reported.
All right.
In the beginning, the archaeological record of humans in Ireland begins in Castlepook Cave, County Clare, near the coastal city of Cork on the south coast. Here, a reindeer's femur has been discovered that radiocarbon dating has identified as 33,000 years old.
Wow.
Initially excavated over 100 years ago by the naturalist Richard Usher from a place he called Mammoth Cave, due to the abundance of mammoth bones found there between 1904 and 1912. The reindeer bone was recently re-examined with modern techniques and technology and found to possess clear signs of butchery. It is the earliest specimen indicating human habitation in Ireland, but it doesn't prove continuous habitation.
Okay.
Sea levels have changed dramatically over the eons, at times exposing land bridges to the British Isles that early migrants may have crossed only seasonally. Others might have been able to access the Irish shorelines in boats when the seas were far more shallow. Later immigrants almost certainly came in waves from the north and east and south, adding layer upon layer to the societies and cultures that already existed there. The earliest entries for human specimens in Ireland currently listed at haplogroup.info are two DNA samples. One, a Mesolithic specimen from a cave in Limerick, whose U5 haplotype roughly corresponds to the Gravettian culture, and whose genetics indicate he may have had black skin, brown hair, and blue eyes.
Wow. Cool.
and another
Oh my
Gravettian-era sample
goodness.
that was found near Galway, a more ancient relative of Cheddar Man, the famous specimen from Somerset, England, from 9,000 years ago. By 10,500 BCE, another find from over a century ago.
That kind of took me by surprise. I've heard stories about that, you know what I mean? But that just took me a little bit off guard there that it was just said there. I've heard that the Irish were black, the black people of Europe, you know what I mean? And I just thought it's because of the history of indentured servitude and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Not realizing there's just actually genetic proof as such that they were dark skinned. And that's, wow, that's kind of cool.
A bare-bone specimen from the Alice and Gwendolen cave, also in County Clare, shows clear knife marks on a freshly killed carcass. This has generally become accepted as the first indisputable evidence of habitation in Ireland. But who were these people? And from where had they come? Well, no evidence exists of Neanderthal communities in Ireland, even as they proliferated in Britain and France and across the European continent. As ice ages ended, the climate shifted dramatically many times, uprooting peoples and preventing them from settling. Finally, around 10 to 12,000 years ago, things more or less began to resemble the coastlines and climate that are familiar today.
See, I think we are at a threshold of something like that with the climate change and stuff. There's going to be mass migrations. And I wonder, with these migrations, if they had the same issues like we do now, you know, like the people who were already there saying, oh, I don't want those immigrants here. They are poisoning, well, here, that's what one of the presidential candidates said. You're poisoning the blood of our people and thing. Well, if the people that were there were dark skinned, and then all these other tribes and clans and people come in, migrated there. Did they feel the same way? Was there anti-migration groups and stuff, and leaders screaming, "Oh, they're going to poison our blood"? It seems like that stuff is inevitable. There's no, you know. Then why can't we accept it? If we pay attention to history and see that's what's been going on through our history, we know a change is coming. Nothing stays the same forever in mankind because, you know, we have to change with the way Mother Nature is. Sea levels rise, sea levels fall, new lands, back then, you know, new lands were popping up, you know, places that haven't been really scrutinized as yet or explored as yet. And I mean, now people are starting to explore, I think it's Vietnam, there's a cave where there's a whole ecosystem underground with trees and rivers and waterfalls and stuff. And that was just discovered like about what 20, 30 years ago. So things are changing. Now, are we going to start moving to that underground living here in a bit after we don't terrorize the top portion of the sun, the earth? Is there more places like that? And what if the people who settled those places say, oh, we don't want those outsiders coming in. They destroyed up there. So they build an army. It's just repeated, bro. It's just repeated. Crazy, isn't it?
The most likely land bridge connected southeast Ireland and the coast of Cornwall. When ice ages reached their peak, the seas receded and people advanced. Also, Kintyre in Scotland is across a channel too deep to ever allow a land bridge, but today it is less than 20 kilometers across, and in earlier eras it was even narrower. By 9000 BCE, those early migrants might have been Maglemosian people who had migrated from Denmark through England, who conceivably visited Irish shores but left little record of their stay. Or perhaps they were Tardenoisian from the west coast of France. These were both modern human Paleolithic cultures named after the locations of their most important finds. They occupied woodlands and mud flats, hunted with dogs, and used flint and bone tools and weapons in different fashions. A couple thousand years later, the Cardial, or impressed ware pottery peoples, may have arrived to the south of Ireland by boat. Known by the detailed pottery they impressed with heart-shaped cockle shells, they dominated the southern European continent from 6400 to 5500 BCE. The Eneolithic age is represented by two specimens from Mesolithic-era caves, one in Leitrim and another in Limerick, and from that point on, a solid record of habitation and migration emerges. The study. The Irish DNA Atlas is an ongoing genetic population study that has evolved into a biobank run by Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland in collaboration with the Genealogical Society of Ireland. Their website offers access to anyone studying the history and genealogy of Ireland. It states, "The landmark study provides the first fine-scale genetic map of the Isle of Ireland, revealing patterns of genetic similarity, so far in 10 distinct clusters, roughly aligned with the ancient provinces, as well as with major historical events including the invasions of the Norse Vikings and the Ulster plantations." The Irish DNA Atlas project was co-designed by population geneticists and genealogists who came together to collect DNA samples from 196 Irish individuals with 4 generations of ancestry linked to specific areas across the island of Ireland. Analyses of the DNA and comparison with thousands of further samples from Britain and Europe are revealing geographic clusters within Ireland. So far, 7 of Gaelic Irish ancestry and 3 of shared British Irish ancestry. These findings add to the knowledge base required to improve the diagnosis of diseases where genes play a strong role, particularly for populations of Irish ancestry. According to Edmund Gilbert, RCSI, first author on the paper, our work informs on Irish history. We have demonstrated that the structure emerging from genetic similarity within Ireland mirrors historical kingdoms of Ireland, and that Ireland acts as a sink of Celtic ancestry. Additionally, we find evidence of a West Norwegian-like ancestry that we believe is a signature of the Norse Vikings. We also observe the impact of historical events such as the Ulster plantations on the DNA of the people of Ireland. Michael Merrigan, GSI, co-author on the paper, stated, "For those interested in genealogy and Irish history, this study challenges many of our received narratives on the origins of the people of Ireland. We now get a clearer, scientifically based map of the distribution and settlement of our ancestral groups across the island of Ireland. Historians and students of medieval Ireland have now a wonderful resource on the movements and interrelationships of our ancestor groups through their DNA. This opens up many new and very exciting research opportunities for many disciplines, especially those researching the Irish medieval genealogies and the history of Irish clans/septs. Professor Giampiero Cavalieri, who directed the research, stated, "For our study designed to work, it was vital for us to collaborate with the Genealogical Society of Ireland. They helped us reach the very specific cohort of people needed, people who could demonstrate that all 8 of their great-grandparents had been born within 50 kilometers of each other. This has allowed us to create a genetic map for the Irish population with resolutions similar to that recently drawn for England. Whilst we are delighted by what the study to date has revealed, this is a live study. The more people who participate, the greater resolution we can achieve." Key findings: that prior to the mass movement of people in recent decades, There were numerous distinct genetic clusters found in specific regions across Ireland. 7 of those revealed so far are of Gaelic Irish ancestry and describe the borders of either Irish provinces or historical kingdoms. The remaining 3 are of shared Irish-British ancestry and are mostly found in the north of Ireland and probably reflect the Ulster plantations. 2 of the Gaelic clusters together align with the boundaries of the province of Munster, and individually are associated with the boundaries of the kingdoms of Dalgaise and the Owenacht. There are relatively high levels of northwest French-like, probably Celtic, and evidence of West Norwegian-like, probably Viking, ancestry within Ireland. There is evidence of continual low-level migration between the north of Ireland and the south and west of Scotland. And now, for an even deeper look, we turn to the introduction of the PLOS Genetics article. Situated at the northwestern edge of Europe, Ireland is the continent's 3rd largest island, with a modern-day population of approximately 6.4 million. The island is politically partitioned into the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, with the latter forming part of the United Kingdom alongside the neighboring island of Britain. Alternative divisions separate Ireland into 4 provinces reflecting early historical divisions. Ulster to the north, including Northern Ireland, Leinster, east, Munster, south, and Connacht, west. Humans have continuously inhabited Ireland for around 10,000 years, though it is not until after the demographic upheavals of the early Bronze Age, circa 2200 BCE, that strong genetic continuity between ancient and modern Irish populations is observed. Linguistically, the island's earliest attested language forms part of the insular Celtic family, specifically the Gaelic branch, whose historic range also extended to include many regions of Scotland via maritime connections with Ulster. A second branch of insular Celtic, the Brittonic languages, had been spoken across much of Britain up until the introduction of Anglo-Saxon in the 5th and 6th centuries, by which time they were diversifying into Cornish, Welsh, and Cumbric dialects. Since the establishment of written history, numerous settlements and invasions of Ireland from the neighboring island of Britain and continental Europe have been recorded. This includes Norse Vikings, 9th to 12th century, especially in East Leinster, and Anglo-Normans, 12th to 14th centuries, who invaded through Wexford in the southeast and established English rule mainly from an area later called the Pale in northeast Leinster. There has also been continuous movement of people from Britain, in particular during the 16th to 17th century plantation periods, during which Gaelic and Norman lands were systematically colonized by English and Scottish settlers.
Wow.
These events had a particularly enduring impact in Ulster in comparison with other planted regions such as Munster. As with the previous Norman invasion, the less fertile west of the country, Connacht, remained largely untouched during this period. The genetic contributions of these migratory events cannot be considered mutually independent, given that they derive from either related Germanic populations, such as the Vikings and their purported Norman descendants, or from other Celtic populations inhabiting Britain, which had themselves been subjected to mass Germanic influx from Anglo-Saxon migrations and later Viking and Norman invasions. Moreover, each movement of people originated from Northern Europe, a region which had witnessed a mass homogenizing of genetic variation during the migrations of the early Bronze Age, possibly linked to Indo-European language spread. However, each event had a geographic and temporal focal point on the island, which may be detectable in local population structure. Previous genome-wide surveys have detected little to no structure in Ireland, concluding that the Irish population is genetically homogeneous. However, runs of homozygosity, alleles matching on compared chromosomes, are relatively long and frequent in Ireland and correlate negatively with population density and diversity of grandparental origins, suggesting that low ancestral mobility may have preserved regional genetic legacies within Ireland, which may be detectable in modern genomes as local population structure embedded within haplotypes. This is further supported by the restricted regional distributions of certain Y chromosome haplotypes. Haplotype-based methods were recently used to uncover hidden genetic structure among the people of modern Britain. These approaches exploit the rich information available within haplotypes, usually statistically phased, to identify clusters of genetically distinct individuals with a resolution that could not be attained using single marker methods. In doing so, the people of the British Isles study was able to identify discrete genetic clusters of individuals that strongly segregate with geographical regions within Britain, though notably, structure was undetectable across a large southeastern portion of the island. However, although this study sampled over 2,000 individuals, only 44 were from Northern Ireland, with none from the remainder of the island. Ireland was also excluded from admixture and ancestry analyses due to the confounding effects of the island acting as a source and a sink for ancestry from the UK. With this focus on a single island, the people of the British Isles study has an obvious limit, despite its title. Here, we have used the methods of their study to explore fine-grained Irish population substructure.
Okay, we're gonna stop this here and we're gonna do the second part. You understand what I mean? Before check this out though. When a place is landlocked, it's easier to have that migration happening, which would sort of skew the genealogy of a place. Back then, people coming by boat and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Now we have planes and stuff, which would speed up the uh, the change in genetics of an area. You understand? Like in America, they come across the southern border. Of course, we have a northern border with Canada. Not too many people talk about it because that one is harder to come across. But if you have a landlocked areas with different nationalities or different clans, or it's easy to have a combination happen because people will migrate. Even if it's in small amounts, they still will migrate. I hope you guys are enjoying this as much as I can, man. The second part is coming up. I'm gonna leave a link to the description in the description to this video, so you all can go check it out. And you guys have a good day. Take care of each other. All right. Come back for part two. Cool runnings.